You're listening to iCannabisRadio.com.
All right, we are back for another edition of the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. I have a very special guest in here today, my good friend, Mr. Citezen Jay.
Hey, yo.
How you doing today, Jay?
I'm awesome today.
Are you? Well, is that a hemp hat you're wearing today?
You know, it's not. It's not a
okay.
hemp-made hat, but it is.
Turn the fan off.
Yeah, but it's from Jeremiah, my friend who owns Hand of Man, which is a glass blowing company here in town. And the first time I met him, he handed this to me.
Well, very
which
cool.
is pretty awesome.
That is cool. Right
Yeah.
on. Well, I want to talk a lot about, like, you know, your favorite glass and stuff like that, because you are a glass aficionado.
Well,
I would say
there.
that you are one. I mean, when I've been into your house just recently, actually, and I've seen your room where you do a lot of your YouTube videos, and I've seen the glass in the background, but I don't think you can get the scope of it until you're actually in your room. And it's pretty much like wall-to-wall shelves of glass.
Only
everywhere.
two. I have two shelves of glass.
But
They're just
well,
prominent.
but they're full. Like,
Yes,
ridiculously full.
I have about 40 pieces all told. I try to keep the exact number ineffable, if you will, because I don't want my wife to find out.
Oh, okay. So 40-something, because it's something that you can't deny 40 when you say there's 40 there, honey, and she looks in and she sees it. She's like, well, yeah, there's got to be 40 there. Yeah. But we don't know.
But here's the thing. Most of my glass is local glass, right? It's Colorado glass, because there's one thing I do love. It's Colorado and all things Colorado. So, and I'm trying to support the local glass artists here. But I don't just have Colorado glass, but I have a lot of it. And the thing is, I don't know enough about glass that I would call myself an aficionado yet. I would say I'm on my way to becoming one. I'm learning.
Gotcha.
Right? But there are certainly people that I know who would put my collection to shame, and other people that I know who would look at my collection and just kind of, turn their noses up at it. Right?
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
I love glass. I do know a little bit about glass.
Is this your piece that you have here?
I own this piece, yes. This is.
Can we get that on the camera, Chris? Because this is kind of a cool little thing. One of the big issues with dabbing is how much crap you got to hold on and how much gear it is. That's why I'm not like a big dabber, because I'm just a lazy smoker when it comes. So this is a cool little rig because you have the torch, and does this come off? It's like, you got it taped in there.
No, it's just a piece of paper to kind of brace it in there.
Right. Now, was this piece was designed for this very kind of setup?
It was designed for the torch, yeah, but not that particular torch, so it doesn't fit perfectly.
Gotcha.
But I can
Still
tell you a
works.
little bit about that. Oh, yeah, it works. That's called an autopilot rig. And this one was made by my friend Josh Caliber here in Denver, right? Josh will tell you he did not create the idea.
Sure. Right.
But he has certainly, I would say he's modified it and improved it a little bit.
Kind of made it his own.
Yeah. That wig wag is really kind of one of his signatures, is his big wig wag work.
Right.
And I'll be honest and say that this one was kind of a second, if you will, one of his first tries, which is how I got a hold of it.
So this is like more of a prototype.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
He's refined it since then.
He has, and he's worked on some new ones where he's changed the direction of the disc. So yeah, he's still fiddling with.
So name the artist again.
This is Josh Caliber, Glass.
Josh Caliber of Caliber Glass. Is he sold in a lot of different stores here around?
Yeah,
Colorado?
you can find him around Colorado.
Yeah.
At a lot of different head shops.
Do you have a favorite head shop in Colorado?
I do.
Yeah, where is it?
Well, I hate to say it because it, when I name one over the others, and the others kind of notice.
Okay,
that.
how about this? How about we do? Do you have a top? You want to give us top 5? Are you going to get in trouble for a top 5?
I don't have that many.
Okay,
I don't have that many tops.
Just name your favorite glass shops then.
All right. Well, Illusion Glass Galleries is absolutely my favorite place to go.
I thought you weren't going to name your favorite.
Well, here's the thing.
Couldn't help it.
It's unique.
It is unique.
It's unique in a way across the country. It gets voted 3 years in a row best in the country, right? So the thing is, when people come to town and they want to know about Denver cannabis culture, that's one of the places you got to take them because they're really active in the community. They support our community, and it's like going to an art museum. I mean, I've told hundreds of people, especially working behind the counter in January, I literally told hundreds of people that were visiting Colorado for the first time up the street about a mile, Illusion Glass Galleries, you got to go. Even if you don't need to buy anything, it's an experience. Right?
Yeah.
So other than that, I love Daddy Danks.
Daddy Danks is a good one, yeah.
You know, and Daddy Danks number 2 is actually close enough to me that I can go there. Right?
Cool.
So I love Daddy Danks. Right?
Okay.
I loved Mad Hatters too,
But they are no more. Yeah, it's a sad day.
I
when
think
that happened.
Purple Haze is pretty cool too. Right. So, and I do want to mention Freakies.
Well, Freakies is like it's a cool, funky chain, I would say, for Colorado. I mean, they got like, I think 6 or 7 stores. I mean, we
Is it
deliver
that many?
Yeah, I think it might be up to that much. Maybe it's only 5, but I know we deliver at least like 5 different stores.
That's great. I know they lost one years ago. I was going to one on Broadway, and that's not there anymore.
Well, they have one on South Wadsworth, not far from the clinic on way South Wadsworth up by Hampton. And then they have one off of Sheridan in like 41st or something like that.
I go to the one on Leetsdale.
And then there's the one on Leetsdale as well. And then they have
horrible parking.
And then they have 2 in Colorado Springs.
Really?
Yeah, they do. One is kind of close to downtown. I want to say it's off of Platte. And then the other one is up north off of Academy. It's off of a street off of Academy that I'm not going to remember the name. In
the Springs.
In the Springs, but they do have 2 there. So I guess that's 5
I have
right
to
there.
say, I really like Freakies. I met the guys who own Freakies finally, and they're these old dudes. You know, they've been around for like 30, 40 years in Denver, in Colorado, selling glass. That's an institution right there.
Yeah, it is. It is. Do you have a favorite? Well, see, you might not be able to say this too, but artist, a glassblower, or do you have like a few that stand out in Colorado?
There are too many.
There are too many.
There
There are a
the thing is,
ridiculous amount out
there
here.
are those that work with me, and there are those that I haven't met yet, and there are those that I've worked with but don't really want to work with me because I'm such a small-time operator.
Okay.
So, like,
I'm trying to pin them down on some names here to help our listeners
there
out.
are some. The thing is, it's
all right.
who I work with. But
How
I will
about this?
say
Do you have a favorite piece of art at home?
I will
And
give you
tell
one
us you did-
because
all
there
right.
is one artist I can name that I think everyone in the state of Colorado, please forgive me if I'm wrong about this, but I think everyone agrees that probably one of the best representative artists we have is Joel Halen. Right. So I don't mind throwing that name out there because, frankly, he's such a great guy, and everybody I know loves him. Right. So I think everyone would agree that this is a Halen piece right here. It was under the counter. He's got really thick, detailed, good work. Right.
Put it right here.
His perks are excellent. They're almost always.
This is
gridded.
really thick. I mean,
it's like 9 mil glass.
yeah, it's got like that's like thicker than like a mason jar kind of glass.
Oh, yeah, it
Jill. It's like
Thank you, Chris.
testing it out. Yeah.
See, look at that perk.
Oh, that is nice. Oh, yeah, because he's got it all around.
right.
Is that a specific design? Is that called a specific thing?
No, it's a shower head perk. He didn't
Showerhead
design
perk.
it, but he's perfected it for sure.
Gotcha.
Right? And
yeah, that's
one of the
nice.
things. If you hold it up again, you'll see how close the perk actually comes to the wall of the vessel itself.
Oh yeah,
in
it's
the
right.
tank.
It's right on the
right
edge.
up against it. Right.
Yeah.
That's the work of someone who knows what they're doing.
Gotcha.
So, I think it's safe to say everybody in the glass community loves Joel Halen. So I'll say I do too. How's that?
That's good. Good. It's good. Well, I want to, talk some more about glass soon too. But I do want. There is some news I want to kind of touch on, and we can go into it after the break. No. Oh, well, I know how much. I see the clock. I see the clock, man. So the big news, actually for us, specifically, Jay, is that our event for the Hemp Connoisseur and for you, because you've been representing Incredibles, who's been our co-host at the event, and love working with those guys, Incredibles. But our Marijuana Madness event, which is starting to been picking up a lot of steam and a lot of buzz, has been canceled.
It's really disappointing because I have friends who are really excited to enter that competition. And we're getting a lot of heat. It's the same heat that followed AJ around town last month when he tried to do his meet and greet.
I was just on the phone with AJ the Hash Man, actually, on my way to the studio today, and we are going to be working on putting together a little coalition of promoters and event planners out there to start, working towards allowing events in the industry that have consumption on premises.
Yeah,
it
was the intent. My understanding from the people I know who worked on Amendment 64 is that they wrote it in such a way that their intent was to allow for gatherings and things like this. And it's only this one department,
excise and licensing,
that has decided that they can flex their muscle.
Yes.
Right? And it's probably one or two individuals, my guess, and mind you, this is just my guess, it's probably some people who have something against cannabis or are maybe in the same mind as the mayor or the governor, don't understand that way of thinking is gone the way of the dodo.
Well, and here's what I want to say about this is, because a lot of people have been already asking us the details on, why we're canceling this and everything. And first, to talk about that, I need to talk about what Marijuana Madness was. For those of you who didn't look it up yet, is the idea behind Marijuana Madness was it was going to be the first ever home grower and edible makers competition here in Colorado. I mean, there's a lot of competitions for dispensaries and for edible companies that are licensed, but there's so many people doing some great stuff at home. Yeah. And in fact, a lot of people have said, and I've smoked some homegrown cannabis that can blow the doors off of some of the best dispensaries out there.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, that's because they're focusing on a very small batch, and it's very easy. So in defense of the dispensaries out there, they're growing some amazing product for high volume production.
Right. You're talking about the boutique.
Yeah, I mean,
it's completely different. The guy who's
so
growing
small batch. You're talking
themselves.
about 2 plants or 3 plants of one kind of strain.
6, 12 maybe. You're talking a small batch for small.
Chris is like, no, that's not exactly accurate.
Yes, that is accurate.
It is quote unquote accurate. Norm. That's what all we're going to say about that part of it. So yes, small batch, because 3 plants in harvest at any given time for any adult, unless they are a caregiver and yada yada. But so we said, look, let's give an opportunity for these people, just like if a home brewers kind of showcase,
exactly,
or a chili cook off or whatever you want to talk about. Say it is. We're saying the same thing. We're like, look, we're going to do this competition where home growers get to come in, get their product judged by some of the guests of the event. The ticket purchasers were going to be thrown in a raffle and be able to be judges. And then, professionals were going to be the tiebreakers and then judging the later rounds, like, the final 4 and so on and so forth.
Right, a la March Madness.
And it was a la March Madness. It was going to be...
It was the winning prize.
Yeah, it was going to... Yeah, so it was going to be a head-to-head competition. Now, for the grower side of things, the event with the prize was going to be money, because you did have to pay to play on this because we had to test all the product, and the testing's not cheap at all. But then the rest of the proceeds were going to go towards some prizes for the growers and for cash prize. And then also the winner of the top grower was going to get a Wander trimmer from Easy Trim. This is an awesome. It's like a electric trimmer, but it's a hand trimmer.
It's like a $1,500
tool. Yeah. But it's the kind of way you take your home trim to the next level and really brag to all your friends that you got this really cool device. Now, on the edible side, and we actually had more edible entries than we did home growers who wanted to be part of this. On the edible side of it, again, testing the product to make sure it was safe before going, because this is made at a home kitchen, so we wanted to make sure they were safe. But then after it was deemed safe, it was going to be the same thing. People could judge the edibles. But the winner of the edibles, besides cash prize,
here it comes,
was going to get Incredibles, was going to make their recipe under the Incredibles name and create a deal of either royalties or kind of bringing that person on. It was one of those things that they were going to kind of sit down, interview the winner, and come up with a plan.
Contract.
So how cool does this event sound? First of all, you get to be a judge possibly out of a raffle, and you get to judge a couple of different strains and kind of help somebody advance to possibly, like, really the first kind of like talent search for cannabis in Colorado. And this event is going to happen at some point, but we are going to make sure it's legal.
Right. So this is what the city shut down.
Well, and this is what the city shut down. Great chance for community, all that. Now, I have to go to a break, and when we get back, we're going to tell you like kind of what led up to how this got shut down, because everybody's been asking me, so I'd rather just answer that question right here on the show.
Let's do it.
Cannapunch is a delicious and effective medical marijuana beverage proudly made right here in Colorado. Each bottle is freshly infused with 100% pure flower extract from the highest grade marijuana plants available today. Using proprietary extraction methods, every bottle of Cannapunch is consistently and reliably infused with an exact milligram dosage that you can count on to relieve your symptoms each and every time. Cannapunch is delicious. There's never any medicine-y taste. We use only 100% cannabis flowers. No trim or byproducts are ever used in Cannapunch. It does not require refrigeration and comes in convenient, resealable multi-dose bottles from 60 milligrams to 200 milligrams. We have drinks with dosage that works best for you. Cannapunch is available in a variety of delicious flavors like black cherry, watermelon, pineapple mango, and blue raspberry. And we now have strain-specific beverages available just for you. Cannapunch is delicious, convenient, consistent, and effective. Give it a try and experience the Cannapunch difference.
The law offices of Edson, Maton, and Matz provide criminal defense, medical marijuana defense, and advice about setting up and running medical marijuana centers, optional premises cultivation operations, and infused product manufacturing businesses throughout Colorado. With offices in Denver and Aspen, we can offer assistance throughout the entire state of Colorado. Give us a call at 303-831-8188. That's 303-831-8188. Or visit us online at warrenedson.com.
Independent Records and Videos has been your locally owned and operated choice for music, movies, and lifestyle accessories since 1978. Independent Records and Videos has 7 locations from Denver to Colorado Springs to Pueblo to serve your entertainment needs. Whether it's vinyl, CDs, DVDs, books, smoking accessories, or hundreds of other fun and fanciful items, Independent is ready and waiting to make your dreams come true. We are always buying, selling, and trading vinyl, CDs, books, and DVDs, so sell yours and buy ours. Independent Records and Videos, your entertainment headquarters. Check us out at beindependent.com or on Facebook.
I'm Gary Johnson, and you're listening to iCannabis Radio, and I want to say, talk it up, Colorado.
Okay, we're back. Hanging in the studio with me today is my good friend Citezen Jay. Also, Citezen Jay is now writing a newly formed op-ed piece that we've created on the Hemp Connoisseur magazine called Politically Incorrect.
I am really excited about. I can't even tell you how excited I am about that, David.
That's a fun piece.
Two reasons I'm really excited. One, it's the creative freedom to really say what I want to say.
Sure.
But two, it's part of THC, and in my estimation. So let me finish the compliment, sir.
I wasn't going to say anything. Keep going.
It is the most well put together, the nicest packaged cannabis magazine we have to offer.
Thank you.
And I really like it, and I've always liked it, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Thanks.
So
Thanks.
Thank you. Right back.
You know, it's been a fun development of the magazine, and we're not here to talk about that really right now. But I mean, I just to make a statement. It has been really fun to see how it's grown and changed. We started out with basically a staff of 2. For the most part, Christiana Lewis and myself, and then we brought in Caroline Hayes to help us out with layout and editing and writing, and then we had all these freelance writers. You've joined on with that as well, and it's been really fun to have all these different personalities come together and to kind of find, okay, where does their voice fit in our concept of the ultimate cannabis publication, or not the ultimate, but like more of the the more premier guide for news and. Okay.
The ultimate.
Well, we don't do some things that I think that we get a lot of comments on. And I've mentioned this before, but I like to mention it again so people understand, is we don't do strain reviews. And a lot of people are like, well, how can you say you're a really good cannabis publication if you don't do strain reviews? And the thing that I like to tell them is, honestly, it's because I don't find that strain reviews are lasting. So, because like if you give me a review of, I go into this dispensary and I try their sour diesel, and I do a review of their sour diesel. Well, unless you
get that batch of flour,
that review doesn't really matter anymore. So to me, that's a waste of print. So what we do, because I don't want to send somebody there and then they try that and the next batch something went wrong or whatever, and they're like, well, the Hemp Connoisseur told me it was this good and it's terrible. So to me, what we like to do is we like to review products that have an easier way to have consistency. And so we review edibles, we review concentrates, because you can create a more consistent product for the most part out of those products.
What do you think of that new cigarette product coming out, the Cranfords? Have you heard of this?
I haven't heard of the Cranfords, no.
I think that's what it's called, Cranfords. Maybe it's a 10-pack of joints that are rolled like cigarettes with cigarette filters. They get their seeds from Rare Dankness, and they claim to be the best of the best. But it's all.
So they're a new MIP, or are they connected to another one?
I don't know what I don't know about that part of it.
MIP
I
being
just saw them
medically infused product license for those of you not from Colorado.
Thank you. I just meant in the dispensary I saw it's a tin can. It looks really fancy.
Interesting.
And it's like cigarettes, only cannabis cigarettes, and they're supposed to be really. They were $60 for the 10-pack, so I didn't feel like shelling out the $60, but I was just curious.
We got a question on here. I can't find the question. I'm trying to scroll. What about those that have already made arrangements to be there?
No, bought tickets.
Oh, anybody who bought tickets, we're going to be working through the refund program through Eventbrite, and you will get your money back. So don't worry. And that's one of the reasons why last Friday we froze ticket sales. And I guess somehow some people clicked in and were still able to get tickets. I don't know how that happened because we're supposed to make it private. But any of you who did purchase tickets, we're in the process of figuring out with Eventbrite. It's kind of a weird process. So we should be hopefully seeing some refunds either tomorrow or over the weekend. And if there are any issues with that by, I would say, Monday or Tuesday of next week, you can email us at info@thcmag.com and we'll get back with you on communications as to what's going on with that. But we will be refunding everybody's money, including any of the sponsors that have given us money for the event. So we are going to be taking care of that pain in the butt process over the next week. Yeah. So just bear with us. I never had to do an event cancel like this, so we're just figuring it all out. But you guys will get your money back.
Right on. We want to be up and up. That's one of the reasons why I really like working with this company, Medically Correct, is that I know that everything they do is legal and on the up and up, is above board.
Yeah.
They don't hide anything. They don't do anything shady. And right. As a father, as a professional myself with a professional spouse, right? It's important to me that everything be on that up and up, because if something were to happen, I don't want it to come down on me.
Well, yeah. Well, and the big thing for us was Incredibles was co-hosting. They're a licensed company, and we for this event, and I'll take every through the process that I had to deal with, and over this. But the final say was, in my opinion, we felt we were going to have to cancel this out of respect for the licensed businesses that could possibly that were being threatened by being in our event. So it wasn't to protect the magazine as much as it was to protect these other businesses whose livelihoods were really depending on that license. We could have rolled with the punches, but what happened was, and I actually got the text from my partner in crime on the magazine, Christiana Lewis, during the show last week, right near the end of the show. And there might have been a moment when I was a little distracted and Samantha gave me shit for looking at my text message. And that was what I got, was 2 dispensaries had inspectors go into their store that day on last Thursday, and both the inspectors, they might have been the exact same inspectors, and were making their rounds. And it was like a group of people, and we found out after the fact it was the excise and license. We thought it was the MED, but it was excise and licensing. And they actually told the dispensaries to take the posters down.
Mm-hmm. I heard that,
and said that the event was an illegal event, and if any licensed business or employee of a licensed business was at that event, that they could lose their license.
Wow.
Now, this is, again, I haven't heard this firsthand yet. This was obviously a couple of dispensaries immediately contacted Christiana, who's in touch with all of them as our director of sales, and immediately got in touch with Christiana and told her what happened. And these weren't even sponsors of the events. They were just friends or dispensaries, where our magazines and posters were up. So she contacted me and sent me that text during the show. And then obviously right when the show was over, I made the call to her, found out what the deal was on that.
That can be distracting, to say the least.
Yeah. So the next day, I went into first the MED to get a word for them, because I know I could get into the MED pretty quickly, usually better than going up to the city. And they were like, "Look, it wasn't us. We don't deal with that. We deal with licensed businesses and their practices, directly. And if it was an event that you were running, even if a licensed business was on it, if they weren't doing anything illegal in our eyes as far as licensing, they were fine." Well, Denver Excise and Licensing took a little different approach, it sounds like. So then I go over to Denver Excise and Licensing. You got to understand, this process is always a pain in the butt, Mm-hmm. So after about 45 minutes of waiting, I go there and they're like, "Well, the person you need to talk to doesn't see anybody for marijuana on Friday." Now, I'm also at the point where we're at the cusp to printing the magazine.
Right.
And we're like, well, we don't want thousands upon thousands, like 25,000 copies, advertising an event that's going to be forced to be shut down, because that's just going to cause more people to try to get a part of it. And we needed to kind of stop the engine, which kind of sucked because it was really picking up momentum. So anyway, they said, come back on Monday. And I'm like, I was like, please help me now. Cause what are we going to do about the print of this magazine? But anyway, I go in on Monday. They say, the person you need to talk to is not that person. It's this lawyer. They gave me a lawyer's number for excise and licensing. And I sent him an email requesting some definitions. Give me a definition of public consumption. Give me a definition of private consumption. Cause we were under the impression we were a private event. It was at Hood Lab, which doesn't have a liquor license, so there was no worry about, conflicting with having a liquor license on premises. Hood Lab isn't even really a bar or restaurant. I mean, they're a clothing store occasionally. They're an art, Adam Dunn, who does his show here every Wednesday, owns Hood Lab. And so it was a great, marriage for us to do it there. A cool little funky spot. Right on. You could fit a few hundred people there in their back patio. But we were going to have public consumption because of the way this event was going. And so I asked them to define that. They sent me back a letter, and I'm not going to read the whole letter. I'm not even going to read quotes. I'm just going to paraphrase the letter. Basically, they said, I asked for this, I asked for legal definitions and an update as to the current state of marijuana laws in Colorado, kind of what I asked for, yes. Specifically what is defined public and private consumption. And your excise and licensing, you're supposed to be the authority on this for me in Denver. And they said, well, all those questions amount to legal advice, and we can't give you legal advice.
That's what lawyers say.
It is, but it's like it's still if you guys are telling people, or you have some inspectors that have like a bug up their butt about cannabis events, you need to be able to define and tell us, yes, you can do this or you can't.
You will have to coerce them. It's going to take a lawsuit or some similar action.
So they basically did say, under the guise of public consumption in Denver, you basically any event that does that is breaking the law or breaking the law of public consumption, even though they wouldn't define that for me. But basically, how it's working right now is an Amendment 64 was the regulate marijuana like alcohol. Mm-hmm.
And they're taking that to mean regulate it nothing like
alcohol. Because here's the deal: public consumption for alcohol is basically defined by you're drinking on the streets of Denver. You're walking around a public park, you're drinking, that's public consumption because, public consumption for a bar, they're licensed, blah, blah, blah,
You're indoors.
You're indoors.
You're in their property.
Yes. And so for us, though, public consumption it seems right now to be safe for any business is anywhere that public consumption is anywhere that's not a residential property.
It's even a residential property if people are gathering there and tickets are being sold.
Well, yes, and if tickets are being sold, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they followed AJ Hashman around.
Mm-hmm.
Like he put on his Facebook page, okay, I'm going to this party, and the police showed up and knocked on the door. And they're like, why are you here? And they're like, we'd like to see everybody's driver's licenses. And they're like, no, Nazis. We're not going to show you our papers. You have no reason to be here. Right? They followed and harassed AJ all night long to like 3 or 4 different parties, right?
Yeah.
They used his social media to spy on him and then to harass him, follow him, harass him.
Well, and I know they're doing the same
unprecedented things,
but they're doing the same thing for us. That's all public information. They're just keeping track of things. But
that is your government keeping track of you.
Absolutely,
that is our police
Yep.
going after one individual and harassing them,
which is probably
for no good reason other than they can.
Right, which is, by the way, probably one of the reasons why the chiefs of police are pissed at Hickenlooper's budget proposal for what he wants to do with marijuana, because they want more money for themselves.
Right,
well,
because now
more money to police every action that we're doing in relation to cannabis.
Because now that weed is legal, it needs more regulation.
It needs more regulation.
More regulation than it needed when it was illegal?
Yeah.
Really?
Right. Well,
really?
That's just the law, though. The regulation is, I understand.
Actually, what we're talking about is enforcement.
Enforcement, yeah.
It needs more enforcement now that it's legal than it did when it wasn't.
Because we could have done an event like this a year ago and wouldn't have had an issue.
Not at all.
Yeah, and AJ Hashman has been doing the MMJ meet and greet
for years.
The first or last Sunday of every month. I always forget. Last Sunday of every month for like years now.
Yeah, three or four.
Yeah, and to great success. Never has ever had an issue at one of his events, and he's had events where there's been 400 people there. Yeah. Never had an issue.
I think the largest was close to 1,000, like 800 to 1,000. No, never once did we need an ambulance. Never once did we need the cops to be called. It's always been really chill and awesome, And the cops have always been chill and awesome about it because they recognize that it's just totally cool. This is, like I said, this is that one department. It's probably a couple of people in that department they're flexing their muscle because they found a way that they can. They're obviously prohibitionists. And they're maybe a little, sorry about that, you guys. And they may be a little bit mad about, I'm really sorry, you guys. They may be a little bit mad about just missing out on something.
I don't know. Just something, right?
Distracted by it.
Yeah,
call.
you were distracted, weren't you?
I'm sorry, it was work.
Well, look, we have to go to a break. We have a new sponsor. And you're going to talk a little bit about him, of course, Mr. Citezen Jay, because our new sponsor is Incredibles from Medically Correct. I have to say one thing before you get into your little spiel, but Incredibles happens to be one of my most favorite edibles out there for the effect, the consistency, and the flavor. I think they do an amazing job. It's one of the most high quality edibles out there, and there are a lot out there that I really love. But hey, they're sponsors, so you get to hear about why I love Incredibles. So anyway, I'm going to let Mr. Jay talk about it. We got to go to a break, and then we'll be back to talk a little bit more about our.
I think you hit it right on the head there. It's the consistency in our product that really makes us stand out, right? We strive for that consistency, and all of our chocolate bars are consistently delicious and consistently potent, right? So
they are.
We've got a large variety of flavors, and we offer a large variety of milligram choices, right? New on the rec market, we have these 25 milligram flavors, right? So I know working as a bud tender, get a lot of newbies, if you will, especially people from out of town, or like those guys who told me they haven't had weed since they left Vietnam, right? They don't want to eat a 100 milligram bar. But I'll tell you, sometimes those bars are really good, and you just chow through them without thinking about it.
You do. The Monkey Bar is one of my favorites. The Boulder Bar makes really good s'mores. We did that at Bongathon. Oh, that was so good.
So now we have these 25 milligram bars. Same size bar, a lot less milligrams. So if you want to eat the whole thing in one sitting, you can and not worry about it.
And I think that's good. I think there needs to be a balance. I mean, especially for the recreational market, a lot of people are going to come here and try edibles for the first time.
That's what we're thinking.
And look, 25 milligrams is more than enough for the first time user of an edible.
For the fifth time user
of an edible. In fact, that's actually, I like to just take your 100 milligram bars at Incredibles and I break off a quarter of it, and that's 25 milligrams.
Yeah.
And that's good enough for me for an average, like, this is where I want to be.
I think most people, yeah.
You can go heavier than that, and I have, but sometimes it's almost too heavy because I don't get to it. I just go to sleep.
Wait till you try the new Makiba bar.
I have one at home, actually. I'm looking forward to trying it.
The Makiba bar is something really new and unique. It's a granola bar with 20 different nuts and seeds in it, so it packs high protein punch, right? And we put 10 milligrams of pure CBD in every bar. So
how much THC in the bar?
Only 30 milligrams of THC, right?
Perfect.
So it's a 40 milligram bar.
So you can eat the whole bar.
Let me tell you,
as a hiking bar, it's like a great
That's what we're thinking. It's for the outdoor Colorado spirit. But let me warn you that CBD is powerful. And I'm used to eating a Fireberry bar. That's 300 milligrams, and I can function just fine. But I ate that Makiba bar. I stood staring at something for almost an hour before I realized that's what I was doing. Okay. It is a different kind of high, that CBD high. So you definitely
a little transcendent there.
Yeah, it definitely is. You definitely want to try, even if you've got a lot of experience with the THC.
Well, cool. So that was our commercial break, and I like doing breaks like that better because it's just a conversation about a cool product, actually. But
you know what?
How can people find out about Incredibles real quick?
You know what? You can go to medicallycorrect.com.
Okay.
And you can choose from there to go to Incredibles or Top Shelf Extracts, right? So yeah, that's
cool.
how.
So to get back, we were talking about our event and how Marijuana Madness, how it's been canceled, and I had a point that I was going to talk about. So anyway, the thing I want to tell people is there's a lot of people disappointed about this. And first of all, truly, I need to apologize from the Hemp Connoisseur that we are canceling this event. Obviously, we didn't want to. It wasn't anything like the event was falling apart. Everything was moving along really smoothly. We had plenty of competitors who were jumping on board and a ton of people that were buying tickets. So we really thought it was going to be a great chance for the community. So here's what's happening. in our response to this event. We're not just going to lay down by like canceling it and just being like, okay, let's take our licks and we're done. We're going to be putting together a little coalition of promoters and event planners, and we're going to be creating a nice little campaign, seeing that it is an election year, and we're going to use that to our benefit to make sure that Denver City Council has as many cannabis-friendly council members on it as possible. And the thing that we need to understand is we're actually talking about a public safety issue here. And I think that's the thing that they haven't grasped. I think one of the attitudes that we're going to get, this is prediction, one of the attitudes we're going to get from the city and from a lot of people in government, and including, I'm sure, yours and mine favorite governor, Mr. Hickenlooper, is that, you already have legal bud. What else do you want? Oh, yeah, now you need a place to smoke. And it's like, well, yeah, we do. When you talk to any of the dispensaries that are open now for adult sales, on any given day, 25 to 50% of the people that are coming in are from out of state.
That's right.
They're tourists. They're coming to visit. And we are not, as a city in Denver, and really as a state, honestly,
we're saying we want your money. Give us your money, but we won't
hide
get anything back.
Hide that you're buying this. It's like, let's just imagine for a moment alcohol was like this. Okay, you come in, you buy alcohol here in Colorado at only a liquor store. Of course, well, that's all you could get. If we're now saying alcohol is regulated like marijuana, you can buy alcohol at a liquor store. Then, as an out-of-state tourist, you can't drink that liquor anywhere.
And don't forget, those liquor stores have to be 1,000 feet away from any school.
Well, yeah.
You can't have any two liquor stores within a certain... all the rules that apply to marijuana have to be applied to alcohol in this scenario.
Oh, and actually, you're going to be limited to buying a 6-pack or maybe a 12-pack at a time.
Yeah.
You
can get up to a case, but the dispensary will only sell you a 6-pack.
Exactly. So you'd have to bounce from liquor store to liquor store to get a case, right. Or maybe concentrates. Yes, okay, I can buy my hard liquor, but you can only buy so much. And then there's no place to smoke. Some hotels might allow you to in what would be called a drinking room, where people used to drink, something else as opposed to cigarettes for marijuana. Right. But other than that, you really have no place to be able to drink any of that alcohol.
And you can't take it back home with you.
And you can't take it back home with you. Unless you have a friend who has a place and he invites you over to his home, and then you could drink that alcohol at their home. Mm-hmm. But, most likely if you had a friend, they probably already had alcohol at their home that you could drink, so you didn't even need to buy it. So this is kind of what we're looking at for marijuana right now, people. There's no way you can't have a party, you can't go anywhere and listen to music and drink at the same time. There's nowhere to do that. That would be what it would look like if alcohol was regulated like marijuana here in Colorado. So what we're going to be working on is basically a little campaign of event planners. We're going to get some legal representation together as a team and kind of put together some kind of action and political. AJ's, MMJ meet and greets are now changed now. They're going to be political movements. They're going to be voter registration drives. They're going to be like allowing people to understand what's going on in the state and kind of pushing,
Big D said something about that last week. He said we should put voter registration paperwork in every dispensary.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you're both right. I think we need to get our community more involved in the broader community.
Absolutely.
Right. And I'm ready to jump in. I feel bad because I missed the caucus that we just had. But two of my good friends jumped in and are now working with their caucuses. That's Larissa Bolivar and Chris Chiari. And I'm really proud of both of those guys for jumping in. And if I had the details in my fingertips, I would have been there.
Yeah, and it's one of those hard things for business owners like myself and a lot of them out there. We can't get as active on the political side. And I'm a very politically motivated person, but we can't get as active on that because we're so busy keeping our businesses going.
Right.
So it's great when we have, advocates and activists such as yourself and like Larissa, kind of helping us out on this path. But what we need here in Colorado, and I don't think we're asking for a lot, is we're asking for a safe place to be able to consume cannabis, where people can socialize and congregate, consume cannabis with other like-minded individuals, and be able to be entertained by music, be able to, whatever it might be.
Look at this way, you guys. Think of all the business that takes place after 5 o'clock in our city's bar rooms, right? billions of dollars of business, right? A lot of those businessmen would prefer to go to a place where they could maybe vape a little cannabis instead of drink so much.
Well,
to unwind after work and do their business.
And
right?
that's why I say it's a public safety issue. And this is why I guarantee we'll get resistance from, the governor, seeing that he's an alcohol man. That's how he made his fortune. Yep. But, we are talking about now finding a beginning of a replacement for a lot of people for alcohol. And now we're talking, but they can still go out and socialize. They can smoke cannabis now instead of drinking alcohol and getting drunk. And then, alcohol. Basically, when you look at domestic violence, 90+% of all domestic violent cases honestly, are alcohol related.
If you look at all of our social issues across the board as a nation, you will find that alcohol is a factor in all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Alcohol has not been good for this country.
No.
But
prohibition has been worse.
That's right.
We recognize that.
Right? And the thing is, the same thing will happen with cannabis. It's just going to happen in the same kind of pace, and people have to realize that prohibition ended overnight with an act of Congress, actually an amendment to the Constitution. So it was an act of the nation, not just Congress. But it took decades to become the juggernaut that it is today. And we look at it and as an industry, we are somewhat envious of how it's treated, but they had to fight for that, just like we are fighting now. And eventually, I have faith that eventually cannabis will be accepted the way beer and wine are today. Right?
Well, and I think that's the big thing is right now we as an industry are already making an impact in Colorado. The government's budget proposal, as stupid as it was, I think opened up a lot of other governors' eyes and saying, wait a minute, you're talking about $100 million in spending?
Yep. In 1 year?
I mean, granted, $85 million of it is really stupid.
In 1 year from only a handful of dispensaries?
For some clarification, that was actually based on a 2-year budget.
Okay, it's projected numbers.
It's projected
But that's
numbers.
projected on just a handful of dispensaries in one state.
Yes. So I mean, it's awesome news. It's
here's something. Fort Collins. I'm sorry, not Fort. I take that back. Not Fort Collins. I'm sorry. The city of Colorado Springs just denied me the chance to do some archaeological work for them because they didn't have the budget. It was a pretty meager budget for such that I do. Okay, they have refused recreational sales.
Yes, they have.
Right. They would have the money.
Yes, they would. For that and a lot of other things.
It's sheer foolishness
it is.
for just no other reason than this prohibitionist mindset. And eventually they will see the error of their ways.
Well, especially because Colorado Springs is the second largest cannabis market in Colorado. Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, it's a second
they have
largest.
clubs. That's what kills me.
They have clubs, and actually, there was a battle with a good friend of ours, Casey Stark, over Studio 64, where they were trying to shut his club down. And there's multiple clubs there. There's I think it's 710 Club, Speakeasy Lounge, Lazy Lion, and Studio A64. I don't know if there's any others.
Those are the ones I know of.
Yeah, and Casey's is actually kind of the smallest of the operations. Well, I've never been to 710, so I don't know. But he opened it infrequently, much more private event had great entertainment, like coffee shop kind of feel with spoken word, and some like jam bands would come up there, and it was just a great little place to congregate and hang out. And it was very mature the way it was presented, and they went after him because of a zoning issue. And then they went up against the Planning Commission, and basically they won their case against the Planning Commission, but they can also, my understanding is they can appeal the process up to City Council, and let's hope it doesn't do that because City Council there is obviously very anti-cannabis. Yeah. But, they did win their first battle there, which is great. It's, hey, chalk one up for freedom again.
Yep.
But the real issue to me, again, like we talked about, it's a public safety issue. You can't just tell us we can purchase this product and tourists can purchase this product, but they don't have a safe place to be able to congregate and enjoy cannabis. Yeah. You don't want them smoking in the alleys. Well, if you don't want them smoking in the alleys, provide a place for them to smoke. Let them smoke on the patios of bars, just like they let you smoke cigarettes in the patios of bars if you want.
Or on, we'll have rooftop places. Like we will create.
We'll create it.
Places for people to smoke. There's so many people I know that have plans.
Yes.
That are just waiting for the okay. The need is there. It's just these. I want to call them absent-minded prohibitionists. They're closing their eyes to the reality.
Well,
they're
still trying to hold on to like that, like, hey, we gotta, like, it's a bad substance mentality. They're not like accepting the empirical evidence out there that it's safer than alcohol. They're not. I mean, the president.
And they get away with it because our federal government hypocritically actually does that.
Well, yeah. Obama said, "Oh, it's when in his recent statement that everybody got very excited about." And yes, it was exciting to a point, but it was also like, wait, you understand? You got to look at the words he used. He said it was no more dangerous than alcohol. Well, that is like the understatement of the year.
Yeah.
When there's been no deaths attributed to marijuana usage, and we're talking about an average of 25 to 30,000 deaths directly attributed to alcohol.
His bets so hard.
Yeah.
And still the leader of the FDA, or the head of the FDA, is like, it was the lowest point in my career.
Oh, when he said that, yeah, I know. That was a DEA, actually, I think it was. Yeah. But
sorry, DEA.
It's all right. But yeah, we're still fighting that, to the extent, yes, we've had acceptance, but it's not where it needs to be. If we want to have what I think would be a great thing, and a lot of people would be very upset with this name, which is a cannabis nation, but that would be, a nation where it's accepted widely. People can smoke if they choose to as an alternative to alcohol, which is safer, as an alternative for medicine. Then we need to provide a place for people to socialize. That's where information is gathered. That's where people learn more. But that's the other thing that's dangerous is, wow, you put a bunch of cannabis smokers together, they'll talk politics, they'll talk organization.
That's right.
They'll start talking about why, trusting the government.
They'll also talk about fractals,
yes,
and the universe. I mean, come on. I mean,
yeah.
Are we really afraid of the pot smokers? Be afraid.
No.
Actually, yeah, you should be afraid because we're brilliant.
Wow.
I totally agree. And there is that it's a conspiracy, if you will, against allowing us to congregate. Because
it's just remnants of reefer madness.
It is.
It's remnants of reefer madness. It's just still clinging to that idea. The world is still flat.
Don't be fooled, though. There's a lot of power and money that they're grabbing. They're still trying to hold on to.
Well,
Look, you mentioned earlier the police chiefs upset about the mere $3 million of projected extra money they'll get for enforcement. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not enough. And the thing that kills me is that they already get money for enforcement of cannabis laws. Now
but that goes to
not enough.
My understanding on the enforcement on the regulations, that goes to excise and licensing in the marijuana enforcement division. It doesn't go to actually directly to the police. So his budget did have money.
So he got money from forfeiture.
Yeah, exactly. Right? It was forfeiture.
And that's the point I'm making.
The they're losing money from forfeitures.
They're losing their income stream from marijuana, and they're crying about that. And I say, too bad.
I say too bad too, but at the same point, if I was in all of the police chiefs' position, and I saw Hickenlooper's budget proposal where he wanted to spend $85 million on substance abuse, youth substance abuse and prevention,
right? It's basically a lot of advertising money.
A lot of advertising money. And a lot of money going to rehab facilities, which are funded by that help fund organizations like Project SAM or Smart for Colorado, which is very anti-cannabis.
Because that's where they get their money.
That's where they get their money. So
it's the same place the cartels get all their money from, weed.
Yeah, but they're making it sound like cannabis addiction is going to be this rampant plague that crosses.
There's no such thing. Look, I am the closest thing you could call to a cannabis addict. Okay.
Do you ever forget to smoke?
No.
I do. I'm not somebody who has to smoke every day. That's why I know I'm not addicted to it. It's more of something I enjoy doing.
This is what I'm telling you.
Just like I enjoy a cup of coffee.
As far as you can be an addict to marijuana, I am that person. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll admit that. My wife and I have had this conversation, right? But here's the thing: if for some reason I had to clean up, do it. Right? Yeah. If I'm going traveling and I don't get to take weed with me, okay. Right? I need my weed every day because I like my weed every day, but it's not the same.
I like it like I like my cup of coffee every day.
Right, exactly. But I don't get the detail. Hell, if I don't have my cup of coffee, I got a wicked headache.
See, I do too. In fact, I'm more caffeine addicted than I am cannabis addicted.
But if I don't have my weed, I don't get any physical symptoms. I do get grumpy. But here's the thing. If it's my choice, no problem.
Right.
But if it's somebody else,
that's when you
imposing
get
it on
grumpy.
me,
That's when you get grumpy.
Right?
Exactly. You're right. You're right. But I think that's the big issue here is we are talking about moving to a safer society here in Denver, and that's what we're arguing for with asking for us to allow public consumption of cannabis, or what they're calling public consumption of cannabis. What I'm
Which
calling
isn't, right?
Well, yeah, what I'm calling consumption on premises in an event. Something like that. Now, I think there needs to be two things that are a solution. First, there needs to be a permit created that is not more expensive, by the way, than a permit for alcohol for like a temporary permit.
Yep.
When you're throwing an event, like, hey,
they're going to try to argue that it's going to cost more money because of all the police that are needed, because they still think that weed gatherings are places where bad things are going to happen. They just don't understand.
They don't. But there needs to be a permit for temporary event licensing. Or maybe get event companies who are just like, yes, you're now licensed. You have this event. We do an inspection of the event, make sure it's safe, blah blah blah, whatever it needs. And yes, you can have public consumption. Then there needs to be another license, much like a liquor license that is given out to restaurants and bars.
Agreed.
Maybe not to sell the product. I'd love to see that down the line, but the dispensaries, I'm not trying to take money out of the dispensaries' pockets. But
right, I understand. But a license to allow a smoking area.
A license to allow a smoking area. Like if you choose to have this, you can have this license for this smoking area. Whether they have the cabaret license. It can be the cannabis beret license.
I like that.
Trying to find a pun, it's not working.
It worked well enough.
Almost.
We got the gist.
But one of the things, and I'll say this, I don't think. Right now, I would want to see that license allow alcohol in the same premises. I know a lot of people.
I agree with that.
A lot of people would have issue with that. And look, do I think in a perfect world, you should be able to smoke and have a license
or tobacco? Let's be clear.
Or tobacco, yeah, or tobacco, yes. But if there is a place where you can smoke tobacco, you should be able to smoke cannabis, in my opinion, and no matter where it is across the board.
Well, the only thing I'll say about that is that a lot of people who smoke tobacco don't like the smell of cannabis,
and vice versa.
And I agreed. But until that, I think smoking should be something you do in a separate area.
I agree.
I think there would be tobacco smokers, especially older tobacco smokers, who would take issue of their smoking areas being inundated with weed smoke.
True.
So at this point, I think eventually that's going to happen. But at this point, we're still outnumbered.
We are.
And I think we have to be a little considerate to the tobacco smokers, the tobacconists, if you will.
And you know what? They're not used to anybody being considerate to them. It's their job to be considerate to everybody else. So
but
I get it.
They're on their way out.
Sure.
But I don't want to be associated with tobacco. And so
I don't
want
either.
this. I don't want a tobacco smoker to be able to smoke where I'm consuming cannabis. And I would give them the same respect. But when you go to Illusions, for example, when they have their events, sometimes they have a thing out back. And if you're caught smoking a cigarette, you get kind of shushed out.
Gotcha. Right? And that's fair. I mean, that's a preference of that business. I mean, I think the big thing for me is right now, I would love to see, yes, you're at a bar and yes, you have a license where people can consume cannabis on the premises of the bar, whether on a patio or wherever it is, or a rooftop, and you can buy alcohol. Yes, it should be allowable to be integrated, but the reason why I don't think we should really be pushing towards that anytime soon is because we're still a new industry, and I know how government and how the public forum will work on the mainstream media side of things. And if there is a bar in which somebody gets drunk, and they of course had cannabis because they were able to smoke cannabis there too, and then they get into an accident and kill somebody, they're going to be like, see, it was the cannabis that did it. And it's like, when we both know, and anybody else who knows, it was the alcohol, but they're going to always attribute it, just like they've done with the past studies on drunk driving when they say
to do that.
They do that all the time.
The guy on Capitol Hill just yesterday or the day before, he said 28% of fatalities are cannabis. There's cannabis in their system. But what he couldn't answer was how many of that 28% also had alcohol
and how many
or other drugs.
And they were most likely beyond the legal limit on the alcohol side of things.
I guarantee you almost all of them, it was because they had something else in their system. But that's not addressed because that would shoot down his argument.
Well, and the other problem when you combine alcohol and cannabis, and I know a lot of people out there will recognize this, is if you drink first and you have a pretty good solid buzz going, and then you smoke, especially if you're somebody who's not used to smoking, you will probably get the spins and you could get sick. And but it's the alcohol that caused that because that's what's coated your stomach first. Now, if you smoke first and then you drink, that doesn't happen.
Is that true?
Yeah,
I might have to try that.
Yeah, it's not fun, especially if I'm a lightweight drinker too.
Me too.
And I've always learned now if I go somewhere and I actually didn't have a chance to smoke first, and then I have a couple of beers, and then I have an option to smoke, I actually have to pass on it because I know I have that chance where I could get the spins because I'm not a big drinker. Some other people have no issue with that, obviously, but it is one of those things, especially. And I'm always thinking of the lightweights coming to our state. Is like first of all, you're in high elevation, which is already something that can cause problem for drinking, and then when you combine the two. If you don't do it in the right order, it can actually cause some problems for you.
We should put out a Colorado guide to getting high for people from the flatlands, as I like to call it.
Yeah. Well, it's pop before beer, you're in the clear. It's kind of one of the rules.
Pop before beer, you're in the clear. Like it.
Yeah.
Pardon me, my stomach is growling like that.
That wasn't your stomach.
I know it sounds like a dog whining at the door, but it's really I'm kidding. That is one of the cutest dogs in the world. That's Gnu, the tiniest pit bull.
That's just because he's a puppy. I see him once a week, and he gets bigger and bigger.
I know, I'm joking.
Last time I saw him, our producer Chris's dog.
Last time I saw him, he was like 6 inches long and weighed like only 50 pounds.
Yeah, we got to watch Gnu for Chris went snowboarding, and he's like, would you and your girlfriend like to watch Gnu? And we already have a lab pit bull mix, and we're like, hell yeah. And
nice babysitting other dogs. They get to play.
Yeah. Well, and he was just this was like a month ago, so he was still a really small puppy, and he just cuddled up with my girlfriend. Jackie was loving it, man. He just like fell asleep in the bed, and she didn't want to give him back the next day. Honestly, she's like, no, we're gonna keep him. We're keeping him. But yeah, he's just a really sweet boy. Kind of our unofficial mascot here at Cannabis Radio now.
And a darn good one.
He is.
I want to say a little bit more about Incredibles.
Well, yeah, we got to wrap up. So let's talk a little bit more about him. Because honestly,
really
one thing I just want to say before, we're kind of shilling Incredibles here, but it's not just because they're sponsors. They are really, I think, one of the preeminent edible companies in Colorado.
They've been around a long time, and they've been really good about supporting people in this industry.
Yes.
They've really helped a lot of people out.
Yeah.
And they are always generous with what they contribute, right? And I think that's definitely worth recognizing.
Well, and it goes a long way to one of the things I want to say is there's a reason why Incredibles was co-hosting Marijuana Madness with the Hemp Connoisseur, is we were planning on doing some kind of home growers event. That was one of the things we were planning on doing. And then I sat down and had lunch with Bob and Rick from Incredibles. And they were talking about how they wanted to do a competition where the prize could be a possible, like a contract with a professional company. And I was like, I love that concept. Let's combine forces, because I think my concept mixed with your concept kind of makes a really awesome event. And that just goes a long way to show that they're very innovative in the way they think about things, the way they think about doing events as well. It's not just, hey,
cooperative spirits.
They really do have
are.
a cooperative spirit. You have a great staff. One of my favorite people in the industry, Jason Brown, who was on the show a few weeks ago, a very good friend of mine. I'm actually officiating over his and Christiana's wedding in December. And he's been a part of Incredibles for a while as the representative or the face of Incredibles to the dispensaries.
Oh yeah, he was one of the best salespeople I've ever known.
Yeah. He don't speak in past tense. He's still around.
I saw him earlier today, so that's
he was one of the best salespeople I ever know. I'm like, do you know something I don't know?
That just came out wrong, you guys.
He still is. He still is. He's still around, guys. Don't worry.
Sorry.
Well, we used to call him the silent assassin because he's so unassuming. He's so mild, but like he would just, and you'd be like, how is this guy selling anything? He's not that salesperson that you would think of, but man, he has that niche where people trust him and they buy from him.
Yep.
And well, they trust him because he represents good products.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, little good news. He's telling us it's almost time to wrap up the show, is what he's telling us, because he's got to go. He's usually good for about an hour. Right.
So can I say one more thing
about
this?
Yes, please do.
I got this new T-shirt, you guys. We just got them today. It's celebrating Amendment 64, right, in Colorado. Colorado proud, and this is from Incredibles. And I'm going to be out and about every week. You're going to find me at one dispensary or another. And if I catch you purchasing an Incredibles bar, boom, you're going to get one of these T-shirts. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm going to give people kind of hints as to where they might find me every week. And come look for me. Maybe you'll get a T-shirt, if you
I'd love to. Actually, you guys, it was funny, going on quality. I was at your office when you got your first printing of the shirts, and you got the shirts, and the printing didn't come out clear, and you had boxes of them, and it was like, usually most people would be like, well, this is what we're stuck with, and they're like, nope, send them back, because they gave me a shirt, and then they looked at it, was like, wait a minute, we can't give you that. I think they owe me a shirt.
I give that credit to Bob. He's got that discerning eye, and
he does.
He was like, no, I don't want that to represent us at all, and
I know how that goes, man. It was the same way with us.
You know what? We are looking for an overseas place where we can donate those T-shirts.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
So if anybody has an idea, hit me up, Citizen Jay at CitizenJZ@gmail or Jay at.
Why don't you just sell them for a really cheap price on your website and donate the proceeds? To like the Cash Hyde Foundation or something.
It's because of what you said. We don't want them representing us here.
I totally get it.
Those T-shirts just aren't the quality that we want out there with our name on it.
Right.
But you know what? I'll send them to some place that needs clothing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Got it.
Right.
Cool. Very cool, man. That'll be funny. You see like a whole village of people wearing your shirt.
Right on.
Yeah, right. Send us some pictures.
Please do.
So anyway, we got to wrap up. I want to thank all of you guys out there for listening to us today at the Hemp Connoisseur Radio. For those of you who have just tuned in, yes, we have had to cancel our our Marijuana Madness event due to legal threatenings, so to speak. And we will be moving on and pushing legislation to find a place for us to congregate and smoke our legal cannabis, because right now there isn't a place beside your home.
Don't forget to vote, everybody. It's really important, especially in the midterm.
Well, and this is one of those times that, with the midterm, definitely vote and pay attention to who you're voting for. Don't just go, cross party lines. Oh, this guy's a Democrat, this guy's a Republican, whatever your affiliation is. If you're looking at cannabis rights, then focus on what they're saying, because marijuana does cross party lines, and there might be a Republican out there who has no issue with us setting up licensing for places for people to consume as a safety issue. So take a look at what they stand for on the issues. Pick up a Hemp Connoisseur magazine. We will be hitting the streets early next week, and if you do want to pick up a magazine, I highly recommend being at a dispensary on Monday or Tuesday of next week. We will be getting it on tomorrow as well, too, and mostly Denver areas you can check out. But they run out fast. They run out really fast. So if you can't get a hold of them, you can go to issue.com, ISSUU.com, and read the most recent issue. Right. So for those of you out there, thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Citizen Jay, for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. We're going to have you on again and again, man.
Please do.
Right on. So to all of you out there, peace, love, and hempiness.